All right, so we'll put the recording on our YouTube channel as well, so that in case anyone who wanted to attend and wasn't able to, or for later reference as well, people will be able to see the webinar. Okay, so very, very warm welcome to all the participants and of course the presenters as well. We have Maritza and Nicola from the university. Maritza is essentially part of the team who will provide more information about the course. Nicola is the program leader. And we also have Clayton, who is a present student at the university as well. In terms of participants, we've got about 18, I guess, people who have joined in. And thank you everyone for coming in on a Monday afternoon, and appreciate the time that you are spending over here. Uh, so what we'll essentially do in this presentation is I'll quickly tell you a little bit about CN Beyond and why we are doing this presentation. Then we'll talk about the place as such, about Southampton, about the campus, about the facilities that Solent University would provide. And then we'll deep dive into the course, the curriculum, what are the benefits of the course, where are the students getting placed, what kind of students generally enroll, the eligibility requirements, and then we'll hear from Clayton, who is himself a seafarer as well. And then of course we'll have Q and A's coming being answered from the presenters. In terms of why we are doing the webinar is that a lot of times we would like to take up a certain course, and we don't know much about the course. So essentially we go through the website, scroll through maybe 10-20 courses, and sometimes we are confused. And where do we get our answers from? Maybe through a friend of a friend of a friend. A lot of times these questions, I mean, you don't get to interact especially with the program leader, especially the person who's going to teach you in the course, and mostly not with a alum who's had a similar background as yours. So the idea to do this webinar is to increase your awareness, to provide you credible information right from the horse's mouth, if I may say that, so that you can evaluate the relevance of that information for yourselves, which will help you take well-informed professional decision. So that's the reason for essentially doing the webinar. Some do's and don'ts. After each slide, you may you may write down your questions, but we'll not kind of entertain the questions after each slide. We will take all the questions at the end only. And as far as possible, if you can keep the questions generic in nature, very specific questions can be taken up later on as well. And we'll share the slides with you after the presentation is done. So at this stage, let me take one poll. For some reason, the poll was got inactive from my end. I'll look into it. But let me introduce Maritza, who is the international officer, and she senior international officer, and who caters to the South Asian market from Solent University. So she interacts with us a lot. She interacts with students, and about the course also, but things beyond the course as well. About the eligibility, about the campus, how does a person kind of stay over there. So she's the right person to provide more information about all those things. So a very warm welcome to you, Maritza, and over to you now.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Captain. Thank you all for taking the time to join us this afternoon. I hope you're all keeping well on this Monday afternoon on your side. My name is Maritza, as Captain said. I am the Senior International Officer for South Asia. So I cover the South Asian market, and I help provide information for our students about studying in the UK and just helping them through the application process. And when they arrive, I'm here on this side to welcome you to our campus. So if you could just go on to the next slide, please. Before you go on to the next slide, I just want to highlight my details. If you do want to get in contact with me at the end of this presentation, please feel free. Otherwise, you're always welcome to get in contact with Captain and the C and Beyond team as well for further guidance and assistance on how to kind of enroll at Solent and become part of the Solent community. Yes, on to the next slide, please. So let me tell you a little bit about the city of Southampton. I'm not native to Southampton. I've only just moved here and I've been here for about 6 months, and it's been an incredible 6 months. Southampton is in the southeast of the UK. So we have great commuting links between London. So it's about 70 minutes to London. And then it's about an hour from the university to airports as well. Like we have an airport here in Southampton as well as Heathrow Airport. If you have a look on the map, East Park Terrace is the campus where most of the teaching happens and a lot of activity happens for our students. Unlike any other campus I've worked on, this is the first campus that's so central, based in the city, and it's just across the park as well. So you can go walk through the freshly greens to get into town and or to get into campus. And it's surrounded by a lot of amenities as well. If you have a look at the map again, you can see where our student accommodation is, and you can see a lot of the other facilities that are available to our students as well. On to the next slide, please.
Before we move, Maritza, sorry, could we go back to the last slide? Thank you, Captain Gaurav. Not many perhaps may be interested in football, but if they are, so I don't know, you will come to know me. I'm actually not from Southampton either. I'm from Liverpool. So football is very important to people in Liverpool because, of course, we have the best team in the world. But Southampton don't have a bad team. They're also in the Premier League. And you can see just to the left of the picture as you look at it, St Mary's Stadium. So if you do like Premiership football, you have the opportunity there. Now, of course, it may be that you actually like cricket. And the cricket team for Hampshire is not bad either, but it's a little bit further across. We'd be going further past the map that you see on the left, but there is a very good cricket ground, and of course they have hosted the Indian team too. So just worth saying that there's some landmarks there that are worth noting. Thank you, Maritza. Sorry, I broke in.
Not a problem at all. And we do have a great partnership with Southampton Football Club, but I will talk about that at the sports section as well. But thank you very much, Nicola. On to the next slide, please. So a little bit about the city that is Southampton. It is the largest city in the southeast outside of London. There's a population of 240,000 people, with 43,000 of those belonging to a student community. Southampton is home to 2 universities, Solent University as well as Southampton University. But obviously you want to know more about Solent. We're a major port city with a rich maritime history. And as you walk around town and go around the city, you will realize the huge maritime influence here, and you'll just, it's everywhere. There are landmarks there. I went for a walk yesterday into the other side of the bridge, and you could see a lot of landmarks or a lot of placards that talked about the maritime. And just across in the park as well, there is a monument there that talks about the maritime history. It's home to the largest cruise ships that come in. So again, on the weekends, you might get a sound of a cruise ship rolling in. So you can go and see that as well. And if you look at the screen, you can see the different parts of town as well. 1.6 billion of new city developments are underway here in Southampton, and you'll see that going around. It's really been, a lot of money has been put into Southampton to make it into a cosmopolitan city where people can enjoy, the students can enjoy the place really. It's got 180 plus cafes, bars, pubs and restaurants. And as someone who likes going out and being social, there's a real buzz about the place. And having lived in a small Welsh village, it's really nice to be somewhere where there are loads of young people, different people from all walks of lives and different communities just enjoying life. The next slide, please. So a little bit about what is around Southampton. These are some of the places that are around Southampton. And like I said, we have great commuting links. You can always get the train to Portsmouth or Brighton, or you can get the ferry to the Isle of Wight, or the train again to London, or a bus to London and to Oxford. You can also get the train to Stonehenge, or drive if you want to drive, or you have a friend in your halls of residence when you move here that drives, or anyone who has a car. You can go to Winchester or the New Forest. One of the first trips that I took here was to go to the New Forest, and we had a lovely walk around and saw the beautiful nature and the wild horses and so forth and so on. And yesterday we walked from Southampton to a place called Hamble, and it was just such a beautiful walk. It was 3 hours walking, but it was incredible. And it was just really nice. And those are the kind of things that you get to enjoy while you're here. And, you know, if you are into shopping, into city life, like I said, you can always go to somewhere like London. Next slide, please. So a little bit about what we have here at Solent University. We've taken a lot of time to invest in our facilities. We have taken time to make sure that the facilities that we have at the university reflect the real world. So when students go out to go and work, they're familiar with the facilities that we have, and they have familiarity with those facilities, having worked with them in the university. We have an award-winning teaching buildings. We have the UK's largest maritime simulation centre, which is incredible to have that on campus. I've had the pleasure of being there and having seen that as well. We have specialist photography students for our photography students. We have a brand new courtroom, and as someone who studied law myself, it was just nice to go into something that's so state of the art, and it reflects a courtroom. And for students that are interested in sports, we have a state of the art sports complex with a gym and labs. And so again, if you're into sports, that's an incredible place to be. We're an Adobe Creative campus, which means that all of our students have access to Adobe Suite. We have 1 million invested in our music studios and recording studios. So for anyone who's interested in that area, as well as other subject areas where we have invested money, would be nursing, nutrition, and biomedical, where we've invested in the labs there as well. And we have one of the biggest HD studios in the south of England. So these are the facilities we have here at the university, and hopefully you'll be able to come to Solent and enjoy these facilities. Next slide, please. Again, when we talk about the facilities that we have at the university, we also have university managed accommodation. And this means that you can live on one of our accommodation here at the university, and it just helps. It's one of those things where if you're at university, you don't want to have to worry about accommodation. You don't want to have to take the time to look for accommodation until you're settled. And so by having university managed accommodation, we help take away that stress. So we have ensuite rooms where you can have a bathroom included in your living room, in your room, and that costs up to 5,700. And then we have non-ensuite rooms, which can cost between 4,900 to 5,000. Students are expected to pay accommodation fees either full out, or you can come to an agreement where you pay in 3 equal installments, normally between October, January, and May. Or you could also work out an installment of 8 equal monthly installments. We also have the university accreditation scheme, where you can go on and look for private housing using that accreditation scheme. We also have other private student residences within the area that, you know, if you're interested in living, if you don't want to live on university managed accommodation that you can actually tap into. For students that are living in student halls, they have free access to the Solent Sports Complex, which means you have access to the gym and to some of the classes offered as well. The next slide, please. So to talk about sports, as Nicola mentioned earlier, the university does really pride itself on having a great sports community for its students. And you can see that with the investments that we put into the sports complex. But also we have great links and great bonds with the community, with the local community, whether that be the local cricket team or be the Southampton Football Club. And like I said, we have a great partnership with the Southampton Football Club, and every time that they play, there's usually a raffle that goes out to students where you can put in your name and be selected to kind of go and watch a game and win a ticket to go watch a game. So that kind of exciting things. We also have many other many other sports teams available on campus, such as American football, tennis, table tennis, sub-aqua, volleyball, cheerleading, dance, football, climbing, equestrian, judo, hockey. And these are all sports societies set up by students. And it's just a great opportunity for you when you come to university to join these teams and to join these communities and be part of something. And it just helps overall with your time here and your ability to enjoy your time as a student. Next slide, please. So Southampton, Solent really is home to about 16 degrees, of which maritime is one of. So at this point, I will hand over the presentation to Nicola to give you some more information about our maritime courses and our offerings. Thank you.
Thank you, Maritza. So good afternoon, everybody. Namaste. My name is Nicola Price-Roberts. I am a senior lecturer in Maritime Business and Law, but I'm also the course leader for the MSc programs in Solent. May I have the next slide, please? So the academic courses, the academic maritime courses, are situated in the Solent Business School, but we're closely aligned with, and obviously we have deep friendships with our colleagues in Warsash Maritime School. You may have heard of Warsash Maritime School because it is one of the biggest professional training providers for maritime professionals, not just in the UK, but of course in Europe, and it has a very, very long history. So the simulator suite that we heard Maritza mention earlier briefly, that's all on the same campus that we will be in Maritime. The Maritime School is on the same campus, so we do have access to all of their facilities, of course. There's many deep friendships between the staff, and we work with them and they work with us, so you know it's interchangeable. We're all part of the same institution. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, so why would anybody consider studying for a maritime degree at Solent University? Well, as I've already said, we have a very, very deep history in maritime education, and we have a global reputation. Our students are truly international, and they work, or our alumni work internationally as well. And I'll touch on that a little bit more later. As far as Southampton is concerned, it's one of, and has always been, has a very historical background, Southampton port. It is a major UK port, and it is the largest cruise terminal in Europe. So with headquarters for many big cruise companies. And of course, we are, as Maritza said earlier, very close to Maritime London, where we have the headquarters of the International Maritime Organization, and many shipping organizations and companies obviously have either headquarters or big offices in London. So, you know, having such close proximity to London, and you know, we're able to visit regularly, and that's something that we value. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about our degree curriculum, or degrees curriculum. There's a number of degrees on the next slide, but before I do so, I just wanted to tell you how we actually create the curriculum, the subjects that you'll study. Because of our links with industry, we are able, and I'm very fortunate in that we can talk to the industry that employs our students and ask them, what do you think you would like us to include in our degrees? We are all maritime professionals ourselves, the staff, so we have our ideas, but we like to keep absolutely up to date, and refer to the industry. And I've put some logos here for organisations. It's not exhaustive at all. It just gives you an idea of some of the companies that some of our recent graduates have gone to work for, and you'll recognise many of those names as international companies, global. And also we've got the UK Marine Accident Investigation branch as well. So, right across the board, our students will go and work. Next slide, please. So our focus is, with the degree programs, on real life learning, the things that you will need for those industries and for the companies that you will no doubt want to go and work for. And we have that in two distinct programs. So we have MSc in International Maritime Business and an MSc International Shipping and Logistics. So we discuss this with the staff. We always include the word international because that truly reflects. We're not specifically talking about UK things only. We are talking about an international business. And I'm just going to show you the difference between those two programs now. Next slide, please. Okay, so you can see here that there are some similarities. There are some shared subjects. So for example, if you do international maritime business, you'll do maritime management, international maritime law, maritime operations and transport, and the economics of international trade and shipping. You'll also do those subjects if you do the international shipping and logistics. The backbone of shipping and international trade programs should be those 4 key modules. All students will do a research project that will include a proposal and research methods to learn how to do that, and a dissertation. But if you look at the bottom 2 subjects, you can see that they particularly specify. So if you want to do maritime business, you will do international trade and commercial law, and you'll also do finance and business risk, slightly more tailored towards the business side of things. If you choose to do shipping and logistics, then of course you'll be looking at supply chain management and operational risk management, again slightly more focused at the logistics side of the global industry. So you can see that they're substantively the same programs with those specific specializations at the end. And so that's quite nice because for some of the subjects you will of course be mixed. You'll be sat in the same classroom, so you'll be working closely. If you, for example, you're doing maritime business, you'll be working closely with your shipping and logistics peers, and vice versa. So that's a really good mix. And we have a good mix in background of students who are sitting and doing the programs. We have many seafarers, people who have had a previous career, if you like, in the industry, and they bring their experience, their professional knowledge, and we welcome them in the classroom. They bring a different dimension. We have students who've pursued an undergraduate degree in specifically perhaps maritime, but also some wider degree programs, and they'll come and they bring, of course, their perspectives, their knowledge and their prior understanding of the industry. So it makes for really dynamic discussions in the classroom, and for a really good mix, and everybody learns off each other, including the staff. Okay, next slide please. So both of our degree programmes offered at master's level are accredited by chartered industry bodies. That's very important because that shows, one, that the programmes are recognised by the chartered professional bodies, but also it means that our students, our graduates, are able to become members of, either automatically with the Chartered Institute of Transport and Logistics, or by taking some further exams, but a fewer. They get accreditation, so you take fewer exams to join the Chartered Institute of Shipbrokers, and these are global institutions, and highly prized in the industry. They're very well recognised institutions, so it's well worth having those accreditation and being members of those bodies. Next slide, please. So as a course team, but also as a university, we have an ethos that we think that more should happen than just what happens in the academic classrooms. So we're very interested in things like bringing in external speakers, having visits, holding conferences, networking opportunities, and of course a social life. Now Maritza has talked about some of the sports and social facilities, but I'm going to speak specifically now about what we do in the maritime area. So specifically in the maritime area, I think it's on the next slide. If I could have the next slide, please. Okay, well, I'll talk about this, but before I talk about the field trips, so we have, and we have done this for at least 12 years that I'm aware that I've been at Solent. We have an annual maritime conference where we invite speakers to come and talk to the students, and some of those speakers will be our past students, our alumni. We like to have a mix of both. So we do that in February usually each year, and that's a week-long maritime conference. Of course, that's free. We also have partners overseas who've taken our programs as franchises, and we invite their students because we can do a lot online, as we are doing now. But for our students that are in Southampton, field trips has been something that we've always been very keen on, and there is a list of previous visits that we have made. I personally always like to take students to the International Maritime Organisation in their headquarters, the IMO's headquarters in London. It's your IMO, it's my IMO, it's our IMO, so I think it's part of a good maritime education that we go to visit them. And we have had visits to ports of Rotterdam, Antwerp. That's been a short programme, a short field trip. The Baltic Exchange in London, the Bank of England, Lloyd's of London in England, and of course locally, Southampton Port and Container Terminal. In the past we have gone to the DP World Container Terminal in London. We've had visits with the Metal Exchange in London, and again nearer to home, nearer to Southampton, the Freightliner Terminal and the Oil Spill Response Company. So you can see there a mix of operational, regulatory and business type visits that we've done. Over the last couple of years with COVID, it hasn't been possible at all, of course, because doors were shut and masks were on and nobody was able to visit anybody, and everything was conducted online. All IMO business, for example, was conducted online. However, we are now all getting back to normal, so I envisage that we'll be able to get those visits back to the way they were, kind of pre-COVID, and physically go and visit. So there's some images there of that's an image at the top, photograph I've taken of a master's class in the past visiting the IMO. So that's quite nice. Next slide, please. I've already touched on this. Many universities, many course leaders will say our course is global, and Maritza did hint before at the truly global nature of our programs, but I can only talk about maritime. I only have in-depth knowledge of the maritime programs, and I've tried to count up the countries that I know that we have had and have students from and list them there. Yeah, as an academic, when you write a list, you're always in danger that you've missed a country out, and somebody will say, "Oh, you didn't put my country there," but I've done my best, and that's as many countries as I can think of. And hopefully, you can see when we say we are truly global, we really mean that. We do have students from all parts of the world. Um, and that's what makes our programs, I think, richer, because we reflect the global industry that we work in. Next slide, please. One of the great things that I like about working at Solent is that we're not a huge university. And I think that that's important because it becomes quite small and friendly, and we get to know our students. One of the things that sometimes people say to me is, "How do you know all your students' names?" And I say, "Well, how could we operate otherwise?" But students who've come from bigger universities, undergraduate, will often say, "Nobody ever knew my name, and they didn't even know I was in the class, and they didn't know me," is what they're really saying. That's not the case at Solent, and that's why I'm very proud to work there. We really do care. It isn't just a glib phrase that we might use. Our student support is award-winning, actually. So we have the student hub, which is what we call the one-stop shop. That's a kind of walk-in, and any questions, the advisors there will be able to either answer them immediately or direct you to more specialised teams. We also have, and this is something that you will feel perhaps you need, but I will assure you, you won't. But my experience where we have seafarers is they'll say to me, "I haven't been in school since I was 16. I haven't been in class since I was, younger." And there is always a kind of feeling that, "Oh, I don't know about my academic skills. I know about my professional knowledge." It's a perception rather than a reality, by the way. But we do have great study and academic support. So there's a lot of programs online that you can access, and there are also workshops in person. So you can choose, if you do feel as though you want to top up some skills, you can do that privately. You can do that with a workshop. I think you'd be surprised. You might not need to do it at all. And we recognise as well that being away from home poses an additional layer of questions and complications sometimes, things like visa and employment, general advice. And so we have a fantastic international support team. Maritza, I think you can tell, she's part of that wider team. And so a lot of the advice and knowledge that is needed to support our international students is within that team. And it can be, just as I say, general advice. It can be specific, about visas or employment. But we have that fantastic support available for all our students too. Okay, next slide, please. And uniquely, I think, as a suite of programs. So I'm talking specifically about our postgraduate programs, but of course we also have undergraduate maritime programs, and our students have formed and run their own maritime society, the Solent Maritime Society. All our students are maritime students are automatically members, and the students themselves decide who will be the president, etc., and who will run the society. And depending on who the, shall I say, management team are, depends on the themes of the Maritime Society. So some years it may be more social, with a lot of social activities. Some years it may be more focused on inviting external speakers. So as well as the academic programme of external speakers, the Maritime Society actually can do what they like. That it's theirs, it's your society, it's a student society. And some years it's a mixture of both. It's both social and academic. So I'm very pleased to say that the students run that, they run it well, and they invite on an annual basis, they invite the lecturers to take part too, and we have a social evening together. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I'm not sure whether Maritza or I will take this, but I think it's a self-explanatory slide. There is a cost, of course, in going to university. For next year, for the academic year 2022-23, which may be the year that you're thinking about, the costs of the programmes are listed. For you, the relevant one would be MSc. Okay. But one of the things you can see is that Solent is ranked the 7th most affordable British university for international students. Southampton is not, as far as the UK is concerned, a very expensive place to live. It's slightly more affordable than some other major cities. So you can see that, and there's an indication there of living expenses, living costs. Now, of course, that can't be absolute. It depends on how you choose to live, but that's a kind of average cost per week, average cost per academic year. I'm not going to go into these individually. I believe that a copy of the slides will be available later, so you can have a look at that, just to give you an idea of, I think, for budgeting purposes. And next slide, please. Okay, so hear from our students. So here's a couple of quotes from our students. They're not attributed, so I don't know which students have made these quotes, but it explains to their thoughts. Maritime is the lifeblood of trade. There you go. And Southampton is a relatively small city, great student environment, people from all over the world. There you go. We are truly international. And what somebody has gone on to do. Okay, there you go. So that's some comments from past students, or maybe present students. I don't know, because I actually don't know who they're attributed to. So there you go. Next slide, please. We are going to hear from a current student, Clayton. So perhaps if you have any questions, you can ask Clayton. He's studying one of our MSCs at the moment, but he also has a background as a professional seafarer. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Captain Gaurav Rana now to talk about the application process and how Sea and Beyond can assist with that, because it is actually always one of the more difficult sides of things, isn't it? Knowing how to apply, and fantastically, you have Captain Rana to assist you with that. Okay, thank you, Captain Rana.
Thanks, Nicola. And just take another minute or so before I have Clayton come in with his thoughts. So essentially, what happens is, and as I was said at the start, that a lot of times it becomes difficult for the students to essentially choose which university and whether what will they gain after they get into a university. But once you select a particular university, then questions like what do I fill in this particular column of the form, how do I make my letter of recommendation, how do I approach the particular university, what happens, or how much time does it take for a visa, what's the best way of going around it, or how about my accommodation. A very basic question like, I want to transfer fees to the college. How do I do it? What's the most efficient way of doing it? So those are very basic questions wherein you need some kind of support. So what we do is we can help you in all of those things. That's A. And B, if you have more persons joining the same course, we might have others joining the same course, so which you might not be aware of, so we can make groups for you, and you can use the economies of scale, and you guys can know each other before even going over there. So those are the kind of help that C and Beyond could provide from for the participants as well. And yeah, I think I'll stop sharing the screen now, and let's hear from Clayton, and then we can move into the question and answers. All of you can write your questions in the on the chat window, and I'll moderate the Q&A with the presenters. Over to you, Clayton.
Hi guys, good morning to you. I'm Clayton. I used to be a seafarer employed with Anglo Eastern. Just to give you a brief about myself, before I was a sailor, I used to be in banking, and that didn't continue for over a year. So I've done most of my studying here. I'm an ex-Warsash, so it's been second mates, chief mates, masters, all been studying here at the Warsash all along. And then just 2021, I signed off in August of last year. Was actually a little late on entering into the course, and I studied international shipping and logistics, but Nicola was one of the faculty. She was extremely helpful. So as far as support is concerned and trying to get people to reply to your emails and all your questions about entering into the course and, you know, start dates and the visa requirements, you have an extremely helpful team, and the response times are just phenomenal. They'll get back to you. If not on the same day, you can expect a reply within the day. And once you're here, you want to have your, you know, your accommodation and your living and all these kinds of things sorted out, so that when you are ready to enter the course, you can focus on your study. So like I mentioned, I was on international shipping and logistics, and the course of study is broken up into 3 terms. The first term will focus on 3 modules, which will also have your research and methods explained to you. At the end of every one of these modules, there is an examination, and the curriculum here is divided between an examination based and a sort of like a report and an essay writing. So it's sort of like an assignment based course of study. It's very directed, it's very regulated, and there's constant support from faculty in terms of emails. You can write to the faculty in email. You can also organize meetings. You can organize a sort of like a rendezvous with one of your lecturers to meet at a certain particular place if you require additional assistance. There's also great library facilities, in inclusion to the SOL, which is the online learning portal, which you have access to at all times during your course of study and your degree. And that all boils down to the 3rd term, which I am on right now, where you have time just to work on your dissertation. So it's a dissertation subject of your choice. Obviously, it needs to be closely associated with maritime and something that you're required to develop and research from a maritime perspective. So all in all, a very interesting course. If there's any other question, I think I'm best suited to answering questions you have about the course of study, as opposed to me giving out details, because the details are very clearly listed out on the website about the modules and about what they're going to cover. 2nd term, economics, and for me it was also international risk assessment, and the 3rd was maritime business, which was actually not completely my course of study, but there were also a lot of management studies that were closely business related, and that was on my 2nd term. So all in all, what you're going to get from this course is going to prepare you for your career away from sea, because I'm guessing most of you are sailors. And my class, we had a mixture of about 6 sailors for a class of about 15 people, where we had graduates. There was also a person with a business background. There was a person with a background in law, and some undergraduates who had just put in their graduation study from Norway and from Greece. So there's a lot of people you can, communicate with and develop your ideas with, and get a better understanding about the wider scope of shipping and the availability of jobs seated in the future.
Great, great. So,
Thank you, Clayton.
You're
Sorry,
welcome.
Captain Rana. I can see lots of questions, fantastic questions coming in the chat. I'll let Captain Rana finish what he was going to say, but just to let you know, I'll answer each and every one of those questions. So don't worry, I'm not going to answer in the chat, I'm going to answer for the recording.
yeah, thank
Sorry,
you.
Captain Rana.
No, I just thought I'll ask a couple of questions from Clayton as such. So Clayton, a lot of times, what we study for our master COC or for our competence exams in the shipping field, a lot of times those content are replicated in our education as well. So I wanted to know, two things. One which Nicola also touched upon: how how different is the studies that you're doing in this course as opposed to what you did in your COC courses, and how easy or difficult is it? How are you able to cope up? Did you do any preparatory work as such before you enrolled in?
Right, Captain. I kind of expected that question because what you're asking me is kind of the same frame of thought I had before being on this course, whether I would be good enough, whether I would come up to the expectations of an MSc degree. And studying in England is generally you have to have your medal, you have to be able to talk the talk and walk your walk. It's serious study over here, which you cannot take for granted. The best way to answer this question is that if you have studied in a maritime, and we had engineer in our class as well, so there's guys here from engineering background. If you have studied and if you worked to the rank of chief mate or master, I remember asking Nicola the same question, and she said in a phrase saying that seafaring students are academically prone to doing better, and she was 100% right. Because if you have studied at the Warsash, you will know that they will completely grind you for your competency exams. So if you can go and get your chief mate's license and get your master's license, then you should not have any difficulty. I'm not saying that coming onto this course and everything is going to come to you naturally. Is going to be a very steep learning curve as far as economics is concerned, as far as supply chain is concerned, as far as a module on logistics is concerned. But then that is the opportunity you're getting here to put yourself beyond what you've done at sea. And that is the reason for most people coming to this course, which I believe was my reason, to learn something, and not just stick to what you learned at sea. Because working at sea together with your competency exams, you've done your part, you've learned whatever you could, and there comes a point to which there's just nothing else. But coming here, there's a lot more. You'll get this opportunity if you're on this course, which you wouldn't have got studying regular seafaring courses or your COC degrees. If I can suggest that you do some pre-learning, or what you could do is pre-reading instead of pre-learning, just to read into the shipping markets, read into logistics, read into supply chain. For people who choose international business, read the Financial Times or the Economic Times. And this would get them some perspective on what the course actually involves. Because when you do come here, they will train you, at least for economics and for logistics, to the level of a junior analyst to be able to perform for the International Chamber of Shipbrokers, which after completion of your MSc, you're going to be able to just do 3 exams before you can get that under your belt. So there's an exemption. If you complete your MSc successfully, you have just 3 more papers and you can get your ICS degree as well.
Great, great. All right. I'll move on to the questions which have come on the chat now. And I think one theme which is one question which has been asked 2-3 times is the eligibility criteria, especially if someone who has done an advanced diploma and maybe he does not have a degree, or someone who has a master's COC. Maybe Meritza or Nicola, if you could guide on the eligibility criteria once, please.
So the entry requirement that we expect typically from students, it's an honors degree of 2.2 or higher. However, if you have experience within the discipline, or you have alternative qualifications and related professional experience, could also be considered. And now I was going to say something also, that a lot of the time I'd advise students to really pay attention to the detail that they put into their SOPs, their personal statements, because if you don't have experience or you don't have a degree within the field, that experience that you have professionally or other qualification, if you include that in your SOP, can highlight why you would want to study this subject. And if you can convey your passion for the subject, or your future and how you see yourself progressing in the course and how it will benefit you, I would really recommend you to add that in your SOP. In regards to the English requirements, I highly recommend that students do look at the Duolingo rather than the IELTS. However, if you do want to do the IELTS, we require a minimum of 6.0 overall, with a minimum of 5.5 in each section. The Duolingo, it's 110 overall with a minimum of 90 in each component. So that's the typical entry requirement. Nicola, is there any specific entry requirement that I have not mentioned that would be considered for both the courses that you've mentioned today?
Thank you, Maritza. Maritza's correct. I guess the audience that I'm speaking to are largely, I'm looking at the questions, and I guess you're mostly seafarers. So you will be coming in on your professional qualifications, perhaps, rather than your academic undergraduate qualification. And I would expect you to have a master's certificate of competency. It could be chief engineers. I will look at chief officers' certificates of competency. And along with that, I'll be looking at the professional experience that you've had. So that is the usual route for our seafarers. They'll be coming in with their certificates of competency. I note that some of you have said, I have a HND. Well, most of our seafarers will have HND or HND equivalent, including our own students at Warsash. That is not going to get you onto the MSc, but your class, your certificate of competency for masters will. Okay, so emphasize your professional qualifications if you're a seafarer, please. All of the applications come to me. I look at all of them, and I get some which tell me, I got a bicycle certificate, says, certificate for competency on riding a bike when I was 9, and then they list everything, and I think, no, I have to wade through pages and pages, and then I go, no, the thing that you put last, you're a master mariner with 15 years experience. Why do you not put that first? That's the most prized and rewarded thing that I'm looking for. So get straight to that, please, if that's what you're thinking. So and as Maritza says, and I know that you will all have sufficient English language competency. Of course you have. Not only is it one of the official languages of India, but also from your professional background, you'll all speak fantastic English. So you do have that. So have some confidence. There are some other questions in the chat you want me to answer. There is a question.
Sorry, Nicola, just on that, just to have my understanding right. So if a person is a graduate, then he can directly apply. B,
Absolutely.
if a person has a certificate of competence for either a chief mate or a master, then he can apply. C, and that's a question, if, say, for example, a person has a diploma, not a degree as such, but he or she has a diploma and maybe some experience, would they be able to apply as well? Would they be eligible?
I'm never going to say no. I'm never ever going to say no to that question. Exceptionally, there will be people who, through their professional experience, the length of experience and the positions that they have held within the industry, that I would consider that to be sufficient for entry onto the MSc. So I can't say yes or no. It very much depends on the characteristics of the individual applicant in that respect. Generally, it's, generally we can say bachelor's degree, class 2.2, as Maritza said, or professional competency, those that we've already covered. There are exceptions, and I think, my own personal experience, and it ultimately comes down to me. It's my decision, within the framework of the university, but I can use a bit of professional discretion. I will always look at things that are slightly not within the norm, but experience tells me, that is someone who can cope with the academic side, and I'm very happy to give people an opportunity on that basis.
Great.
And also, just to step in, I think this goes back to having to highlight that experience in the SOP really early on, rather than waiting till the end to highlight the experience. And so I would recommend that you start, if you don't have qualifications, start really early on in that personal statement and highlighting your experience, what you've done and why you want to choose this course, which then allows Nicola and the admissions team to really look at the application as a serious candidate.
Sure. Thanks. So I guess Sunny, Mishra, Niranjan, Nitya, I guess your question has been answered with that. If I will move on to the next question, which is from Siddharth Ayappan, and that's on post completion of the course. If you could give us a view on the job prospects. I know you touched on the job prospects in the presentation, but a little bit more on the job, the work visa, annual salary packages, etc., please.
It's a question I always get asked, and it's a natural question, isn't it? When you're thinking of investing in your future, you want to know that there's going to be a payback, right? I get that. I've been there. So job prospects. I'll be very frank and very honest, because that's my character. I cannot promise, we as a team cannot promise our graduates a specific job. What I can tell you is that over the last few years, there have been more jobs than there have been graduates. Okay, because the industry has been in a real recruitment. There's a shortage shoreside of quality applicants. By the way, the shipping industry doesn't care whether you're from, Indiana, India, or wherever. They really don't care. They're looking at competency. So, that's a reality. So job prospects fall into two categories. They depend on your professional background and your academic qualifications. Okay, so that's what the employers are looking for. So for you, with professional experience and professional background, you are highly sought. As Clayton, nicely said before, you've talked the talk and walked the walk, and you know the industry, and the industry recognises that and wants that. You are recruited, don't forget, by people who have all, who have followed you. You are following in their footsteps, so they know what you've done and they know what your experience and knowledge is. Our programs are highly respected by the industry. That's something I can tell you. Now, one of the consequences of the UK leaving the European Union was the expansion of the work visa for international students, particularly qualified international students. So what will happen is, after you have your master's degree, you have a post-study work visa, which is 2 years. And of course, that's plenty of time and is attractive enough for companies based in the UK, if that's what you want. to recruit you, to know you, to get the benefit of 2 years of your employment. Whether you then choose to stay, okay, that's something that, you know, the company will then support you, and you'll get a work visa. If that's what they want, they will sponsor that. Or, you know, you may even want to, you know, go to a different office with those companies. I mean, we've had students, you know, they started in London, the next place was Singapore, then they were in Shanghai, and before you know it, they're in Houston. Okay, so you know, that's how our students' life works. You know, everybody now is an overseas student, if you like, from Solent. You know, unless you were born in the UK and you have a UK passport, everybody is in the same situation, which from an employer's point of view is fantastic. You know, because they don't see, you know, the European Union students are slightly different, and, you know, everybody is there. Salary is commensurate with experience and your negotiation skills when you're in your when you're in your interview. You know, they'll give you a salary range depending on the you know, the area. We've had students, you know, go in the high 20s, and some students with experience have gone in straight into jobs in, you know, 50,000 plus. It's very hard for me to say what salary you will get, because
Nicola, can I just interrupt for a minute, please?
Of course you can.
In regards to the post work visa, I just wanted to let everyone know that we also have an international student advisor based in the international team, and her role is to help students that are now moving on from their degree, coming to the end of their degree, and guide them through the post work visa application process. So Clayton, I remember you talking about something like this earlier. That's someone to sort out and seek counsel from her. Her role is to help students in that transition period. And like Nicola said, it's not necessarily to help you find a job, but to help you with the paperwork and understanding the paperwork and the complications of transferring your visa across. So if you need any guidance as a student here, that's someone to always tap into, or me, myself in the international office, I could always signpost you to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Maritza. Yeah, that's fantastic advice, because it's not an area that we academics are specialised in, and it changes, subtly changes. So that's why we have those key personnel in the university to assist you.
All right. Let me move on to the next question, which is, Niranjan, your question was GMAT required. I guess GMAT is not required. IELTS or any other English or Duolingo, I guess that's the other English proficiency test which we'll do. Rohit has a question: is dual degree possible or recommended, which is, you know, both shipping and logistics and maritime business? Can a person concurrently do both the degrees?
Oh, Rohit, you are greedy, wanting to do both. The simple answer is no. You have to choose, you have to do one. But if it's any consolation, then you can see that there is quite a lot of overlap on those programs. You know, there's the same key 4 modules and dissertation, with just the 2 subjects. Difficult to choose. Somebody else has asked me what is the best program, shipping, you know, and logistics or maritime business. That's like asking a mother to choose which of her children she likes best. Okay, so I love them both equally. They're both fantastic programs, but more importantly, they are programs, and both are highly respected in the industry. So do you want to go into the more business side and do the finance module? You know, is really what you're asking, the economics, the finance side of things? Or do you want to go into the logistics side of things? You know, you'll have a slight pull one way or the other. And I think that's the way you choose which of your children you like best.
Well answered, Nicola. Nitya, I think your question has been answered. You have a master's license. You can straight away do the course. I mean, you'll be eligible for the course. Rohit, you want a small session with the alum in the near future. If you have any question as such, maybe you can ask now, and I'll check with Maritza if we can have passed out alumnus person who's passed from the university, from the college, who can probably connect once. But if you have anything, you can write that down over here, Rohit. Abhinav's question: what's the cohort age group of the course? So, what's the average age in the course?
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you average, because average means nothing, does it? Average might be something like 33.6, and you'll go, okay, everybody's going to be around 33.6 years old then. What I can tell you is, of course, we have students who come straight from their undergraduate program, so they're in their early 20s. In the 12 years that I've been teaching and I've been involved with the course, we've had students in their 30s, which is typical. Okay, 40s and 50s. Okay, so there is no age limit, and again that comes back to to experience as well. So we're completely age blind. We don't I don't even collect that data actually. I wouldn't even have an average age because we are age blind. But I guess if you want to pin me down, I'd say 30s. But it's not scientific. And sometimes you can't always tell how old someone is by looking at them. And I would never be so rude as to say, "Can you tell me your exact age for my data set, please?"
Right. Thanks for the answer, Nicola.
I can
There's
tell you the
one.
mean age of the staff.
Right. Right. Rohit's next question. What position do people typically work after passing out from this course?
Okay, so we're looking to educate you to a level where you would be managers, and so that may be quicker and easier for somebody to attain that level um, with experience, because they've already demonstrated leadership qualities, they've already had background experience. But essentially, that's we are educating people, do masters programs so that they can attain the role of manager within a specific maritime context. It may be that when you join, you're not manager, but you're manager within a few years, couple of years. That's depends on your profile before you study at master's level.
But you typically get into either a ship management company, a ship management ownership company, or maybe a commercial company, or into ports and logistics. So those are the typical, industry that you
Yeah.
get into. All right, thank you. Abhinav's question, and let me maybe put this to Clayton as well. So his question is, what are the advantages over the MEL course in Rotterdam? So Clayton, I mean, before you chose the course, maybe you would have done your own research. You would have looked at 3, 4, 5 different courses. And what made you to choose this course? That might help the participants as such.
Well, for me, it was mostly I have this long-standing love affair with Southampton because I've been coming here ever since, my second mates in 2009, my chiefs and my masters, and I have a very close association here with the city. I feel at home while I'm at Southampton. I've lived in a few cities across the world. As far as your question goes as to which finance or logistics, I think that's just a personal choice. I had a work history when I was junior officer working on self-unloaders and on bulk carriers. Then when I qualified as senior officer, I was mostly working on liner trades with container ships. So I realized that I wanted it to be more work-centric, hence I chose logistics. I had an interest in commercial shipping from a logistical standpoint. This made me want to choose logistics more. And I think my decision, I think I made the right decision because when I actually starting in the first semester, there was a lot that I could connect between my work and my job and working and operating container ships and what I learned in my classroom, I could draw a balance. Obviously, if you're interested in stuff like chartering, if you're interested in stuff like finance in terms of the dry cargo and the wet cargo sector for chartering ships, that you're better off taking a decision going down the finance route because they're more centered towards making a study into that field of work. However, you cannot condone the fact that both the syllabuses are actually identical, apart from the fact that there are two modules that separate them. So for the finance guys, you're going to be doing finance, and for the logistics guys, there will be logistics and supply chain. And those are not mixable. They're completely different. So it's just your own choice. That's what I gather. And also your own acumen, your own aptitude. Those are going to be the deciding factors. Nobody can make that choice for you. It's going to have to be your decision in the end.
Well said, Clayton. Nicola, would you like to add?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Captain Gaurav. I know the Maritime Economics and Logistics course in Rotterdam. I've actually had undergraduate students who've gone and studied that. I like Rotterdam, and I like the course is very good. The specific difference, and again, I'm going to be frank and I'm going to be honest because that's who I am. I would say that the Rotterdam course is what I would refer to as a purely academic course. So it's purely academic. Our courses, because we work with industry, are what we refer to as applied. So our ethos is, and the way we design the modules in the course is, we're actually getting our students not, if you like, specifically to write an essay to test their academic knowledge, but we're asking them to apply their experience before they came, their knowledge and understanding before they came, and we undergo kind of what we refer to, it's what teachers and lecturers talk about, things like experiential learning. So learn by do what you've done, and it's more applied, which is something that I know the industry they like that very much kind of directed approach, looking at things which are theoretical but also contemporary, solving contemporary problems rather than just looking at something from a purely academic perspective. So that's my kind of teaching and learning, trying to explain the difference between the two courses. Equally, equal routes are valuable. So it's a personal choice, I think, when you look at that.
Sure. Thanks. Abhinav, if you want to discuss this further, we can also discuss it offline after the webinar as well. I guess Siddharth, Shobh, you've got you're engineer, so you have a degree. You should be directly eligible to apply for these course. Johan's question: the duration of the course is 1 year, right? And when does the course start from, Nicola?
Okay, so it starts in September. So without wanting to panic anybody, but I think Clayton will back me up on this. If you are thinking about 22-23 entry, I would say really kind of get to it and make your application now, because the certificate to study and the visa, it does take some time. You probably don't want to be arriving late. It's not good. There is a cutoff actually when you are meant to be here, but yeah, I would definitely say that. I'm going to be straight. It is one calendar year. Okay, so from September to September, in terms of study and work program. First 2 semesters, of course, the taught part, and then the third semester, if you like, is the self-study dissertation, which you are supported with your supervisor. There was a question, and maybe I'm running ahead here, Captain, but I can answer. Somebody has asked a question, what's the schedule of classes? And it's a brilliant question, and I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier. So we recognise that for many of our students, the reality is they have to work whilst they're also studying, and you can do that, you know, as an international student. You can work up to 20 hours a week, you know, just paid employment. So we've organised the course on 2 days per week, but they are pretty full days. But you know, as seafarers, you're not afraid of working hard. And those days are Tuesday and Thursday. So the talk classes are all day Tuesday and all day Thursday throughout the academic year, the 2 terms, and they're full time. That's the full time. If somebody was going to do it as a part-time program, it would be, you know, just one of those days, but that would be over 2 years. So hopefully that's answered 2 questions in one, maybe 3.
Right. I think it's another difficult question from Johan, and which probably has been touched upon, but not this part. Which is more lucrative, maybe especially in the UK? Is it finance side or the logistics side?
Actually, you would think finance, wouldn't you? But I am thinking that there is such a shortage. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and I sit on the you know, the panel that looks at, you know, people, you know, which grade they are admitted to the institute on, or if they want to get promotion within the institute. And so I get to see quite a lot of salary details, and actually secretly and you know, quietly, there is such a demand for high quality logisticians that actually I would say that you couldn't choose between. You know, there are some very high finance side salaries, but there are some very high logistics salaries as well. So I would, and go with your heart. Go with what you want to do. You know, if you love the job you do, then you'll never work a day in your life, will you? If you really love the job you do, you know, it isn't work. If you hate the job you do, oh, it doesn't matter how much they pay you, if you still feel like a slave. So go with your heart, I think. Yeah, and have confidence that there are, if you're a good candidate, you will get your just reward in the industry.
You're right. There are so many opportunities right now in the logistics industry, and there's a dearth of good talent over there. So yeah, the demand is very high at this point of time. Questions from Pradeep and Ranjan, almost on the same lines. So if you have a second mate COC without a degree, then you know, as I understood, Nicola, you could you know, probably review the application and then decide whether the person would be eligible or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say, Captain Rana, with a second mate's certificate of competency, I'd want to know why you hadn't gone higher in the 20 years of experience that you would have. Okay, you know, I'm going to be quite frank. I am brutal and honest. You know, I always tell the truth. Without it would have to be, you know, exceptional experience and some shoreside managerial experience. Just to give you an idea, we would typically recruit somebody with a second mate's certificate into our undergraduate program. They might go in direct at level 5, or exceptionally they might go in with the equivalent of a HND. They'd go in at level 6, which is the 3rd year undergraduate. It would not be normally sufficient for entry onto a master's program. go and do your first chief officers and come back next year would probably be my my advice. Or
Sorry. If a person has a degree along with the second mate's license, would he be eligible?
yes, on their degree basis, yeah. And I know that that might not seem fair, you know, but you know, a degree from a recognised institution is the entry qualification in itself, yeah.
Sure, sure.
And I would say it wouldn't matter in that instance what the degree was in. Okay, so
okay, it wouldn't matter what's the field of the degree. Okay.
no, if they have also got second mate's COC, then you know they've also got the experience from the industry.
Right. Johan's question on the process to take a student loan. Johan, you can connect with us after the webinar. So we have partnered with a couple of institute or companies which offer student loan to students who are going into recognized colleges. You know, with a certain level of credibility and certain accreditations, and they provide student loan, and if you can just drop an email after this, we'll help you get the process your student loan as well. So right, Niranjan has 8 years of experience at sea. So Niranjan, if you have second mate's license without a degree, this may not be the course for you, but otherwise, if you have a degree, you might be able to, you would be eligible. Okay, that's an interesting question from Johan, Nicola. That can a person midway through the course decide whether he would like to get into the maritime business or to the logistics course?
Sorry, I missed the first bit of that. Let me. I was looking for the question.
Yeah, that's from Johan at 354, and the question is that you know, in between the course, can he choose which of the course that he would like to take?
Okay. Johan, you're already wheeling and dealing. Yeah, I can see you're going to make a broker. No, unfortunately, you are recruited onto a particular degree program. Okay. You know, I'm going to say this: you're recruited onto a particular degree program, of course, and you know, in your paperwork, and that's what you will. That's the degree you will follow. So you do have to make a decision before you come. In terms of knowledge acquisition, you know, so there is very little difference between the programs really. If it was possible from a timetable point of view, if you wanted to sit in on the class, you wouldn't participate as a registered student, but if you wanted, you know, let's say you chose logistics and you wanted to sit in on the finance classes, if the timetable allowed it, in other words, you didn't have a clash with one of yours, then I know for a fact that none of my colleagues would object to that. Okay, so if you just want to follow the classes, if you are free, then you know you can do that. Because my colleagues are and there's room there's room in the classroom. My colleagues are generous, but I think you do have to make a decision before you come, which one you want to go down.
Thanks, Nicola. Okay, question from Suhail. How do we approach the university if you have some doubts about the application? So we should be able to help you over there, Sohail, if there are any doubts, because we kind of partnered with the university. Howsoever, if you have any doubts, I guess Maritza did give her email ID at the start, and we'll share the presentation with you as well. So you should be able to connect with Maritza as well.
Yeah, and I think I'm not entirely sure what you mean by doubts. I'm going to read doubts that you're wanting further information, you know, about the perhaps about the particular modules. I know Clayton directed you all to look at the website, which has a certain amount of information. If you have any specific questions after this, if it's for the process of application, if it's about the university generally, if it's about whether you want to study generally, then I think Sea and Beyond, Captain Rana has been very generous and said that, you know, you can speak to him. Maritza, my colleague, again, you know, she's been very generous and said in those instances you can speak to her. If it's any specific subject, academic matter, drop me an email and I am happy to help explain, you know, if you're not quite sure what that means and what you would do, then I'm quite happy to you know, to carry on. I'll put my email address in the chat, you know, so you can do that. But you know, but I think if you're thinking, you know, is going to university for me, that might be something that you want to talk about generally with your family and friends, and with perhaps with some colleagues, and perhaps with, you know, people who've done that, who followed that path. That's always a good idea if that's what you mean by doubts. Okay. I'm just putting my contact details in the chat. Okay, there you go. There's my email address in the chat. That's for everyone. Okay, I hope that's helped.
Didn't get your email address in the chat. Was it to all participants?
Yeah, it was to all.
Okay.
Oh no, actually, I think it went direct to Satish. Oh, I don't know why it did that. Oh, no, it didn't go to, sorry, let me send it to all. Sorry, everyone. I just sent that to one person by accident. Oh no, okay. There you go. Everybody should have that now.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thanks. We have that. Right. I don't see any other questions right now. And let me take a couple of polls in terms of feedback and in terms of the interest that the audience has for this course. So how many of you would be interested to attend this course? And those who plan to attend, when do you plan to attend it? With this year, next year, or you're still not sure, and maybe, you know, you want some more guidance or some more discussion? Right. I'll encourage more persons to answer the poll. We've got about 60% of you who have answered. Gurmeet has a question on the timelines to assess the admission application. Maritza, would you be able to comment?
I can't give you an exact timeline, but we aim to respond to applications over a 3-day period. But like I said, at the moment, this is at the height of application season and we're going through a mountain of applications. So I can't give you an exact timeline, but we try to respond to students as quickly as possible. So to reiterate what Nicholas said is, if you're hoping to join us this September, please hurry in submitting your application. Again, you could seek the guidance of the Sea and Beyond guys on how best to prepare your application to make sure that it is offer ready when it gets to Nicola. So yeah, again, I can't give you an exact time, but around 3 working days, we try and start to respond. And so, yeah, sorry, I can't give you something more solid.
No, that's fine. Thanks for that, Maritza. And so what I've given CN Beyond's email ID, education@cnbeyond.com, and our LinkedIn, Facebook page, where you could follow us to get more information about such webinars whenever they are happening. And I'll have this final poll, which is on the feedback for the webinar as such. So were your expectations met for the webinar? Did you find the session useful? And how would you rate the session average? And I think that's pretty much it from our side. I'll really like to thank all the participants who really, you stayed for about 1.5 hours, and a special thanks to Nicola, Maritza, and of course Clayton, for giving your time. Thank you so much. And as can be seen from the results, which I'll just share right now, most of the persons, their expectations either met or exceeded, and they found the session either excellent or good. So thank you to the presenters, to the participants for sparing your time.
Thank you, Captain Gaurav, for facilitating this. Thank you all for coming. Whether I see you in September this year, next year, or we meet at an industry event in the future, I wish you all the best of luck, and thank you for your interest in our programs. Take care, everybody.
Thank you everyone for joining us today, and thank you to Nicola, and thank you Clayton especially.